Hello and welcome to the Galactic Core podcast. My name is Chef and I'm your host as each week I discuss the latest TV episodes, films, games and whatever else takes my fancy from the worlds of Star Wars, Marvel, DC and anything else nerdy and geeky in between. If this is the first time that you found us, then please do give us a follow on our social media pages. You'll find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and also Twitch, where I do, not always successfully, but I do try and game a couple of times a week. You can find all the links in the episode description, and please make sure that you're giving the show a like, a follow, and a review on whichever platform it is that you listen or watch on. It really does mean the world to hear that you are liking and enjoying the show. Right now, we're going to get straight into the main event, so please sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. We have a great episode. We've got lots to talk about this week. 2 episodes from 2 different shows, one ending, one just beginning. And of course, as you know by now, I always have to have a fantastic guest on to chat with me about all this stuff. This guy has now started coming on my podcast so often, he's being upgraded from part-time guest to series regular. He's fantastic. We know all about him already. Please welcome to the show from Lights Camera Run, it's Leigh.
Series regular. Oh, that's a massive upgrade. Oh, thank you very much, man. Happy to receive this honor. I will make sure to honor that, and I'd like to thank the Academy.
It comes with a big pay rise as well, being bumped up to series regular.
Oh, it doesn't happen very often.
You get an extra cup of tea made personally by me.
Done.
So
I'll never say no.
I'll write that in the small print on the contract. It's fine.
Yes, right at the bottom. No, thank you very much for inviting me on, man. And I also appreciate you coming on a few weeks ago as well, for the massive episode of Ahsoka, which even though Ahsoka's, the whole series has been an absolute banger, that episode was just completely built different. That will be the most, I think, talked about episode from Ahsoka. So I appreciate you coming on, and I can't wait to get into Loki and Ahsoka today.
Absolutely. Those are the 2 shows we're going to be covering. The Ahsoka finale, Star Wars show coming to an end. It's always sad. I always want to curl up in a ball and cry because it means that, there's less Star Wars for me to watch right now. But, the Loki...
For now.
Yeah, for now. It's probably nothing else for the rest of this year, is there? So looks like Skeleton Crew 2024 January time.
Yeah.
Acolyte maybe sort of like springtime. If we're lucky.
Like that. But yeah, Skeleton Crew still no hard date. And I feel January is weird if they dropped it in January.
But it is sort of fill a gap though, because they tend to do these things where they throw everything in the space of like 3 or 4 months in sort of like springtime to summer, and then that's it. They get nothing else for the rest of the year. So it'd be nice if they threw something in January, Star Wars wise, and then because in the space of 4 months we had Mando, or 5 months we've had Mando, and we've that entire season has rolled through, and then we've had Ahsoka and a few Marvel bits in between.
Oh, that's true. Look, that's fair. Mandalorian did drop, I think, at the end of March. Because I remember this year pretty much flowed straight from The Last of Us straight into Mandalorian.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my second ever episode was the finale of Mando Season 3. So that must have been like mid-April time, I think.
That's right. That was April.
Yeah. How much time's flown since then, to be fair?
Oh, yeah, it has. The Marvels is right around the corner.
I know. I'm actually quite excited for that, to be fair. I know a lot of people aren't necessarily, but I'm decently hyped for it, whether it's a continuation. Well, obviously it's going to be a little bit of a continuation on from Secret Invasion, Nick Fury reappearing. So I'm fairly excited for that, to be fair. But there's been things going on in your life since. This would not be a series review without you coming on at least once during the series to review something, at least on my show. So But since you were last on, Leigh, big things happening in your life. You say congratulations to me because I got married recently, and I just want to say congratulations to you because since the last time you were on the show, you got engaged as well.
I did. I did. Thank you very much.
Daddy, Daddy, when are we filming, Daddy? Come on, Daddy.
Yes, I thought I'd finally pop the question to my partner for 5 years, and she was absolutely surprised because I completely told her that I wouldn't do it for a very long time, so I completely caught her off guard. Yeah, so that's all I'm planning to the point where we both have the engagement and the wedding all set, date and booked and ready to go. And also, since the last time I was on here, hit the 1K mark on YouTube.
Indeed, you did. Many congratulations. Like, fuck me, I'm running out of applauses to give you now. It's fair to say that you are rocking things over in Aussie land at the moment. You know, doing so well with the podcast. Personalised going great. Good looking chap. He's got great merch. He's got great Discord. I'm
trying.
Dare I say I'm a bit jealous at the moment.
No. Right here is what everyone should. This is right here where everyone should be.
But no, seriously, congratulations to you and your partner. It's amazing news. It's great things happening. I think we were talking about it when he got engaged, that everyone was seemed to get engaged in the same sort of 2 or 3 months, didn't they? So
yeah, in the podcasting community, it felt like it was like 5 of us that just went bang, 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 bang.
Because there was me, there was you, there was Tommy, one of the co-hosts over at Star Wars, got engaged. I think there was actually a couple of others as well.
Zach?
Yeah.
Just all in a row.
A good summer for the podcasters in terms of their personal lives.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But we've got some great things to chat about today, so we're going to crack into our first one, and we're going to be talking about season opener of Loki. Hit me with your thoughts on season 1 first of all for Loki. You know, coming to this one because this does pick up exactly where it left off, like to the second. So, what were your thoughts from season 1?
I really loved season 1. I still think Loki is my top tier Disney Plus Marvel TV show. I think I've got WandaVision, Loki, and then probably going down to Moon Knight. Going from there, because Loki was still very much with WandaVision, full of mystery. You didn't know what was going on. You were great to see Loki came back. You're going into this brand new world, and you knew that it was leading to where we get to see Kang for the very first time. Actually, all the way through, it was He Who Remains, and the ending just was fantastic. It was just left so much a cliffhanger, which led into Spider-Man, led into Doctor Strange, and now we've got the brand new season 2, which is so scary to think about. That was 2 years ago that we got season 1, and like this first episode, I feel like hits you right in the jaw and gone, we're not slowing down. Wake up, let's go.
It was a very fast-paced episode, wasn't it? There was it was very much back and forth between a lot of things, but I quite enjoyed this episode. I'm not going to say it's one of the best episodes of Loki because, like you, I really enjoyed the season end of Loki season 1.
Mm-hmm.
That last episode to me was one of my favourites, simply because we do get, you know, a variant of Kang, He Who Remains. But this is not just any Kang. This is the Kang that won, you know, during the first multiversal war. You know, so he's the one that was able to beat everyone else. So this is a guy who, despite his kind nature and maybe sort of like almost quiet appearance at times, I was going to say nuanced is probably a good word to describe it. He won, so he's the badass out of all of them. And I just love the whole description and the dilemma of them of like, should we kill him, should he not? Because, you know, you kill him, this is what happens. If you take over, then you get to keep things as they are, so to speak. And, you know, that essentially Sylvie is responsible for the unleashing of the timeline and the Kangs.
She is. And you say Sylvie?
I did.
Is that how you pronounce her name? I just want to check.
I'm pretty sure. It could be Sylvia. We need to check with the viewer of your show on that one, I think.
Oh, yeah, apparently. Apparently on my last episode, I kept saying her name wrong. It's not Sylvia.
Yeah, just for context for anyone watching or listening,
Yeah.
when Leigh did his last episode live,
Yeah.
someone kept commenting, going,
Roasted.
"Oh, you call her Sylvia one more time, I'm going to go nuts."
Yeah, like, Jesus. All right, mate.
And Leigh's like, "Look, man, I'm giving you free content. Just let me call her what I want. Call her mummy for all I care."
Exactly, which some people do.
Yeah.
Which she's early in this episode for a hot minute, two
Absolutely.
at most.
Yeah, she was the Balin and Shin of this episode, shall we say?
Yes.
But we start this episode off picking up right where they left off in season 1, where Loki returns to the TVA and he faces Mobius and Hunter B-15, and they don't seem to recognise him.
No.
And obviously we see this time slipping, which, first of all, did you see Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the latest animated one?
Oh no, I think I missed that. I think I missed that completely. That was an indie film, right? That was really low on the radar.
Yeah, not
that
many
just
people
snuck
heard
out.
of it.
Yeah,
It was pretty low key.
Yeah, hey, I did, and I did like that reference between the two.
So yeah, the time slipping in Loki, I thought was a great sort of reference to the glitching that we saw in Across the Spider-Verse.
I thought so too. Now, this is a really good point to shout out to the Star Wars guys. And I didn't really think of this after I first watched it, but what causes it?
What, the glitching?
Yeah, what causes his glitching?
From what I remember they said in the movie, it's the fact that when a Spider-Man appears in the wrong universe where he's not supposed to be.
Well, yeah, that's for him, but for Loki, because we find out he's not in the wrong universe, which I love the twist. I love the twist of the fact that it wasn't another parallel universe.
I thought it was down to the fact that he's sort of, as he's kicked through the time door and sent back to the TVA, this is also, whilst it happens maybe a few moments later, the whole Citadel at the end of time, time works differently there, the same as the TVA. So the fact that Sylvie kills He Who Remains and unleashes the timeline, to me, that changes everything. So Loki's being sent back to the TVA as that goes on and the timeline's unleashed, which causes the time slipping because he's not going back to the same point in time, so to speak. Things have changed dramatically for that universe.
Oh yeah, it's true. When she pushed him through the door instead of going straight back, she sent him back in time.
It's kind of like, did you ever watch? I mean, sometimes I compare things to Stargate. I'm finding a bit more often recently, but there's like a few episodes of Stargate when they're traveling through the wormhole and things are changing in like the time stream. And so they go back, and so they don't change; they're still the same, but they appear in a different part of the timeline when things have changed when they're going. I kind of compared it to that.
Also, absolutely great show. One of my all-time favorites, and I can go and watch. I think I've gone through that series about 4 times.
I absolutely love Stargate. Yeah, I love all the Stargates. To be fair, great show. I can't wait for Amazon to be bringing that back as well. So as a little die.
I've lost hope. I feel like it's something that's been on the table ever since the show ended.
Well, Amazon did have got the rights, didn't they? And they were making a new film that was going to lead into a reboot of the series. So I'm still quite hopeful for that.
I hope so too.
But yeah, I was comparing that going through time to how they did that in Stargate. That's how I thought about it, anyway.
Okay, because I didn't think of it at the time, but then when I listened to Star Wars' recent episode, I'm like, it's not really explained why he's slipping. But I do love how he is slipping because it looks painful as hell.
And I think it's going to happen again because there were some scenes from the trailer where he's time slipping that we haven't seen yet in that first episode when supposedly he's now been fixed. So yes. I think it may still happen again. But what got me about this opening is that when I first watched this episode, because he then goes back and forth through different sort of time in the TVA, I was like, so how come then, if he's come back to the point where, everything's happening at the point where the timelines are all branching because of Sylvie killing Kang, how come Mobius and Hunter B-15 don't recognise him? And then I thought, what if that moment he's sent back, which we know now is in the past of the TVA, so to speak, what if it's the very beginning of the TVA where they start pruning all the timeline branches? So that's when it originally happened.
Well, that's very true, because at the beginning of Loki season 1, Morbius already knows about Loki. They already know about how devious and how annoying he can be.
Whereas they don't know him at all here. And so he's like, who is this guy?
No, which turns into a good chase scene too, as well.
Yeah.
And the back and forth between him jumping from the past and present and the future, I feel like was done really well. Like it wasn't on that verge of like Tenet or Inception. Like they explained it well what's happening.
Absolutely. And I think that I did laugh at that moment when he's in the hover truck, and it crashes through the window, and then it just sort of slips forward, and the woman just screams as it falls down.
Yeah.
And that was just a little comedy break there for just a moment. But
shit.
And I think the the TV ball that fell from the ceiling and cracked the badge on the floor was again further proof that this was maybe at the start of the TVA, because when he jumps forward again a bit to more the modern time or the present day bit, when he's talking to Casey and he's like, "How long has that seal been cracked?" And he's like, "Forever."
Forever.
So it kind of signifies again that he'd come back at the start of the TVA, which is interesting to see that time of when it first began, because it's a bit of a mind fuck sometimes, isn't it? When they're like, the TVA time doesn't work the same here, everything is as it is, so everything happens at the same time here. There's no past, present, and future. It just is.
It is time. Like, did you also catch the Moon Knight reference?
Oh, I must have missed that.
So Casey, what he's listening to on his headphones.
Oh, he's listening to that podcast, isn't he? Yeah.
It's the same podcast that Moon Knight's listening to as he's trying to get to sleep.
I'm not going to lie, I only knew about that because I listened to your show yesterday. And that's why it just popped back in my head. So, listening to you, Michael, from Star Wars.
It was only catch a real glimpse moment. If you did listen to it. It was just when I heard it, I just thought, I was like, that sounds awfully familiar. Because it made me think of remember those memes and TikToks of Moon Knight that people were doing when you wake up to the song. Do you?
But yeah, I know what you mean. So, but yeah, nice little tie-in as well. So it interlinks things as well, which I think Marvel are really good at. That even if they're not directly linking things, just putting stuff in the background that links into it. There was a tie-in as well, or a little X-Men Easter egg as well.
Oh yes, I did catch that one.
When they go up to the door of the temporal loom, or the red door that's outside, and there was like a circle with an X through it.
Yeah, I was like,
so yeah, they did look a bit X-Men-ish, didn't it? So
like that's intended. You don't paint that on a door and go, yeah, they won't notice.
Yeah. It's like, we know, because especially since they zoomed in on it, so we've pretty much filling the whole screen.
They focused on it for a little while.
I liked. Did you see the writing that was just in front of the door on the floor in that scene?
No,
so I can't say it. Like, it was just a warning, but I can't remember it word for word. But it was because they talked about spaghettification, like it was if you were dropping into a black hole, and it was just like, if you don't take proper precautions, chance of spaghettification increases by 7,000% or something. It's just like fair warning.
What about your skin?
Oh yeah. That was. I mean, maybe it's, to be fair, it was a highlight of this episode. In terms of how he played off just about everyone. To be fair, Owen Wilson has done a really good job with this character. I think a lot of people were skeptical when they heard he was going to be on in this show from season 1.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, and he's done a fantastic job. And if the rumor mill is true, and we will be in the TVA in Deadpool 3, I can't wait to hear Morbius talk to Deadpool.
It's going to be amazing.
Like, that's just going to be so funny.
Yeah. That is going to be a highlight, isn't it? Because obviously it's heavily rumoured the TVA are a huge part of that film. So
yeah,
that's going to be awesome. Especially if he ends up just like going through to different timelines with Deadpool.
Yeah, like you're more annoying than the green guy.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to be fun.
But no, Owen Wilson's nailed it, and he did a fantastic job in this episode. He's bromance with Loki and Obi.
Yeah, we'll certainly get to that in a moment. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on. We end up at the War Council. So Judge Renslayer has disappeared. So they've got these 3 other judges, so to speak, or whatever, that who like make up the War Council. 2.5, yeah. Some dude's like practically dead in his chair. Yeah. It was interesting. There were a lot more chairs at this table. So once upon a time, maybe there were a lot more of them there.
But did they all realize? Have they the other judges? Have they been like? They've realized, oh shit, and they've been pruned.
They were all pruned for giving not guilty verdicts to people at random times. Guilty. So, yeah. But very much like you've got one judge that was on the side of like, we need to change things now. We need to stop pruning these timelines. Things aren't like they were before. And then you've got that other, is it fair to say, stuck-up bitch that was very much like nothing's changed at all. Everything will remain the same. She had that weird sort of like mother-son relationship with that other hunter, whatever his name was, P5 or whatever his name was. The very head-touching, hugging type relationship. That was a bit weird.
Yes, which even that guy is to the point where you're like, so you still need an antagonist for the show, not just Kang, but your typical military man. I'm going to follow it to the letter. It is my mission. I did like how both these 2 judges did have like opposing views about what has happened, and I must say I love the aesthetic of Loki. I love this room we go into. I love how it's like that 60s spy thriller, if you will. I think it's one of my favorite parts, and anytime this world gets to expand, I love it.
Absolutely. And then we do get this cool bit in the war room, although where they're going back and forth between what they're talking about in the present time and then to where Loki's time slipping. I couldn't technically work out if he was slipping to the past or the present. The past or the future when he was there, because obviously the wall was completely clear and it had the faces of Kang there, and then the recording when he's talking to Renslayer and saying you'll play a pivot. I'm guessing it's slightly in the future because he was saying, I think he was saying to her like, you're going to play a pivotal part in this war, and I'm glad you're on my side, and I'll be honoured to lead with you. So it seems that maybe he's going to be using Renslayer. You think it's the past? Is it?
I think it's the past.
Because I was wondering if it was the past when he's setting up, when he's maybe won the multiversal war and he set up the TVA, or whether it's a little bit in the future where she's going to help him do some stuff that will, against the Avengers and the others, that will help him win the multiversal war and beat the Kangs. So hard to say at this moment in time, I think.
Yeah, I did like how we did get that tidbit between Renslayer and Kang. I also love knowing the fact that this entire show is in its purest form. So regardless of Kang going to court, and obviously with changes, reshoots, this whole episode is the first Disney Plus Marvel TV show that's not had to have reshoots, and they did not change anything because of Jonathan Majors. So, which is really comforting to know going into this.
Yeah, because I think there was a bit of debate, wasn't there? Like, will they change things because of his ongoing court case? And whilst I'm not going to go too deep into it, but whilst his PR company and other companies have dropped Jonathan Majors, Marvel have sort of stepped back and went, we will wait to see how he's judged by his peers in it as a jury, so
he'll be judged.
One way or another, he will be judged as Kang or as Jonathan Majors.
Yeah, exactly right.
But we get the weird relationship between the judge and the other hunter, and she's just like, we need to know what happened at the end of time. Round up the troops, go after Sylvie. And maybe this is like taking Loki out. And he's like, we need to get you fixed because whatever's going on with you, it's
like a dog.
It's weird. I love that bit where obviously they're in the lift and he's like, does it look bad? He's like, no, it looks fine. Doesn't like it hurts too much. He's like, no, I can cope with it. And then like he comes back again. He's like, we need to get this sorted out because it looks horrible. And he's like, you told me it didn't. He's like, it looks like you're being born and dying at the same time. And then he's just like, well, what are you thinking? And then there's this poor woman just stood in the corner of the elevator.
Mortified. Mortified. But before the elevator scene, Tom Hiddleston nails it every time. His speech about who's coming. This is who you should be afraid of. Like, yet you felt that every bit.
He does put that across really well. He looks terrified of him because we saw that post-credit scene from was it Quantumania that set up this season 2.
And he's terrified.
Yeah, where he's him and Mobius watching that scene of Victor Timely, and he's like, he almost shivers, doesn't he? He's like, oh, that's him. And Mobius like, you told me, like the way he described him, he's like a monster, and he's like, he is. So he's like, Loki is genuinely terrified of this guy. Even more so, it seems, that he was terrified of, say, Thanos in Infinity War and the run up to that. So to see Loki this scared and the job that Tom Hiddleston does to portray that so quickly in this, because he's just so panicked, and he's so panicked he can't even really describe accurately what actually happened to Mobius, because it's all running through his head so much.
Yeah, and he's getting torn apart and bored again every 5 seconds.
But he takes him down to the repair and advancement division, so to speak. And here we get the great Ouroboros, OB, played by Ki-Hu Kwan. For anyone that doesn't know who this guy is, he was in Everything Everywhere All at Once. He did a fantastic job in there.
Great job.
And Short Round from Indiana Jones, the young boy. So great to see him in action here.
He's getting a massive resurgence.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what did you make of his performance in this episode?
I loved it. I like his quirky character. I thought what his role was fits him perfectly. And I loved how he's like, Morbius, it's been a while. He's like, yeah. It's been about 400 years. She's like, yeah. How's everybody else? What everybody else?
Yeah. Like, just me.
No, I hope he's in every episode coming forward.
I heard an interesting theory about this character. He actually turns out to be a villain in this series. Because that he's been at the TVA since the beginning. He wrote a lot of the handbooks for the stuff. So they sort of put him as being in league with He Who Remains, or A Kang if the timelines change now. To manipulate the timeline, to knit things together the way that it needs to be done, and to develop a lot of the tech that he ends up using, in the future. So it would be interesting to see if it does go that way. I think that would be a cool twist, because he like plays up to this quirky sort of character, and then turns out to be like really cold blooded in the end.
Well, do you think he's going to be a cold blooded villain, or do you think he's just going to be like the other dudes, like? He's like, I need to fix this. I need to do what's right. This is the only way I've known things, so I must fix the TVA. And if that's to get rid of you, then I will do that.
That's possibly more likely. Whilst they did sort of explain to him that the timelines are branching, that's why the temporal loom was breaking down, because it couldn't handle knitting everything, all the different branches together.
I love that. I loved how that was explained. How the broken timelines, how the sacred timeline is actually juicing up the TVA, and if there's too many timelines, it stuffs everything up.
It was great. So, this is basically how they make the sacred timeline. So they take it and they knit it into this one beautiful timeline, but the energy from it as well also
weaved into one
that's
timeline.
The word, yeah. Weaved into one timeline, and this also powers the TVA outside of time itself as well. But this was also a great scene in terms of, he's taking them. I mean, the serious look he gets on his face when they're like, the power surges are happening throughout all the TVA, and he's like, what did you say?
That's not possible. It is.
Yeah, and he works out straight away it's because something's going on with the temporal loom. So he takes them down there. He explains exactly what they need to do then to be able to get Loki back, in terms of maybe it's just got to go out where. I should backtrack a little. Actually, the fact that Loki's going back and forth between the past with Obi and the present, and so it's translating his thoughts through it once he's had the past conversation, and then it's coming through again.
I have met Loki, and I have had this conversation. I do have the part. I thought that was so good.
Aura extractor.
Yeah, I do.
It's just here.
Yeah.
And then Loki pops back up and he's like, cool. so you two are good to go. Let's get you over there.
Yeah, and poor Morbius is like, yeah, you have to go out there, and if you don't spend too long, then your skin's all gonna peel off. What?
And then him and Loki are arguing. Loki's like, well, I'm going to get wiped out of all time and space. And he's like, well, I'm going to lose my skin. So it's like, which is worse? Which one would you rather not have? But Mobius continuing his funny streak, because whilst OB is trying to explain to Loki exactly what needs to be done, he needs to basically prune himself with the special time stick at the time that this thing goes green. Mobius is there just writing skin in the dust into the side of the monitor.
Yeah.
Will I be left with any?
Yeah.
And then we get obviously Loki time slips again, and he's left behind the time stick, and he's racing around the future where they've already seemed to have the blast doors closed and everyone's evacuating the TVA.
Yes,
which is interesting in itself. That the fact that the TVA looks like, in a way, it's going to almost not exist in the same way.
Or about to explode.
Yeah, because why else would you shut the blast doors unless the temporal loom is going to explode?
Yeah, boom. And then we get Sylvie. For a brief moment. Which I think they're going to do the whole, it's going to be an episode right at the end. It will do the whole flip.
Yeah, I'm completely in agreement there, because she had a different haircut than obviously where we get to see her previously. And she's like, oh, there you are. And whether that's the Loki, because obviously the heavy money or the heavy rumours I've been hearing is that a future version of Loki pruned himself because he knew that he couldn't find the time stick to do it in time. So when him and Sylvie, knowing that he has to be pulled back into the timeline, then go to the TVA at that moment, and he prunes himself.
Yes, that's the theory I've seen as well, and he explains it all to him as well, briefly. That's why he just stands there.
So then, at that moment as well, when he sees Sylvie, pulling open the doors and is just there, the phone's ringing, and we never get to see him answer it and see who's there.
No, we don't.
So I'm intrigued if that was just a ploy to get him to go to that door or stay at that door at that moment, so he was in the right place to be pruned, or whether there was someone going on that was trying to distract Loki, or it was an important phone call that he needed to answer because there was someone there that needed to tell him something. So I don't know whether we'll get that answered if they do the flip reverse episode in the future, if we'll get an answer to that question either.
Yes, we will. It's coming.
But then obviously we get to see this the moment where Mobius is, I don't know why they said it is like the temporal loom energy or radiation was aging his suit. It didn't look like aging his suit. It just looked like fucking melting it away.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it just looked like it was just tearing it apart.
And he's obviously got that giant tube plugged into the back of his suit, which I liken to the tube that I have in the back of my tumble dryer that I put out the window when I turn it on. It looked very much like they just stole that.
It does.
But,
I love how visually. I love how visually that it looked of him walking out, seeing all the timelines in one, and Obi looks mortified, and he's like, "No, we can do it done. He's gonna come." Which we get Loki just flying through into a nice bromance moment between them two.
To knock him back in. It was quite emotional because I actually generally thought that he wasn't going to make it back. The blast door was going to get closed, but instead of like being aged and having his skin ripped off, he was going to somehow get sucked into the timeline and be thrown out somewhere else in the timeline.
Oh,
Loki would have to go and find him.
Oh, he would just find him with some jet skis.
He's just chilling on a beach somewhere with a jet ski.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wasn't necessarily expecting Loki to make it back through at that moment. I thought they would have a bit more suspense and that the blast doors were actually shut. And to be fair, OB looked genuinely kind of sad. He's like, because he stopped on 3 when he was counting down, didn't he? A few times he's like 5, 4, 3, 3, 3, 3,
3, 3. Yeah.
He's like, sorry, gotta be done. So he brings him through. They both make it safely back at the end. Yeah, they have a little cuddle to say, well done, you're back.
Force cuddle.
And and then we get obviously the very end, well, the main end scene here is that we then see Hunter B-15 with one of the other hunters, D-90 or whatever his name was, and they're watching
an
his
army is
I
going
know.
after Sylvie.
And this is not. I don't believe this is just Sylvie, because they said that they emptied the armory and they're sending all these troops through, and that General Dox, I think her name was.
Yeah.
She obviously gave Hunter B-15 a long stare before then stepping through the time door with the troops. I don't believe they're just going after Sylvie here. I think they're going to prune timelines. They're going against what was said in the war room, and they're going to, because there's no way that you would take 20, 30, 50 soldiers or whatever and empty an entire armory of the TVA to go after one person. They've got to be doing more here, I think.
They could be pruning at the same time.
Yeah, that's what I'm betting on. But if I've learned anything, my predictions normally are so fucking wrong. It's unreal. So I'm like,
no.
Can't really rely on my own predictions a lot of the time. So, but this is what I'm thinking anyway. They're definitely going out to prune timelines, not just going after Sylvie.
No, it could be because she really mentioned the fact that they were only going to go. We need to do our job here. Because I thought the same thing. I'm like, God, they're sending an army after her. But then again, where the bloody hell would you start? They don't know what timeline they come from. They don't know where the end of time is.
And with all the branching timelines, it's just like, can you really search for an anomaly and all of that?
One person.
So yeah, don't know how they're going to start. Whether it was just they're going to take as many soldiers as they can and just spread them across the timeline looking for clues. But yeah, I have a sneaky feeling there's going to be the odd pruning of a timeline going on here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But we do get the this post-credit scene as well. It's the first time we've had a post-credit scene in a Marvel or Star Wars film, Star Wars movie for quite a while. I don't remember there being a post-credit scene for a while in any of the shows.
The last post-credit scene I remember was in She-Hulk. There was a post-credit scene after episode 1 or 2. There was. It was just a funny scene where she was throwing out all the trash. Her dad was like, "Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? Can you do that?"
I genuinely don't remember. I thought you were going to say it was the twerking scene with Megan Thee Stallion then.
Well, there is that one, and there's another one.
I genuinely can't remember, to be fair. So it was nice to see a post-credit scene. So Sylvie pops out in 1982, Missouri. I think it was Missouri anyway, which is a nice little hint actually, because that's the same place that Star-Lord's from. If I'm not mistaken.
And it's the A. No, Star-Lord won't be there.
No, well, I mean, he would be a very, very young kid at that point, because I think when he was taken was like 86 or something like that, or 88. Yeah. So he would probably be about 3 or 4 years old, I think, at this point, or something like that. So who knows? Maybe, toddler Quill appearance.
Yeah, toddler Quill.
And then she walks into McDonald's and she's like, don't want no rats, no cockroaches, nothing with a face. What can I have? And the guy's like reading off the menu.
Everything.
Yeah. And then she's, it's quite a poignant moment, I guess, for her, because she was technically taken by the TVA when she was a kid. So she's spent her entire childhood and then adult life up to this point on the run from the TVA, and has known nothing of a good life. And she looks around and she sees, the couples, the friends, the people with their families there, and she, I guess for her, she feels like this moment is what everything's led up to, where she's now, as far as she thinks anyway, she's free from everything. She's got nothing behind her. She can actually kind of have a bit of a life now, and she's like, I want to try everything.
And you feel for her. You really feel for her in that moment. And I thought, that's fully understandable why you want that. But she still has the master template too.
Oh, of course, yeah.
She'll still have that, so she can leave at any time. So she's chosen to stay there. It's
weird that of all the places you could go in time and space, that you choose 1982 Missouri.
I'm sure she just could get some tips from the doctor of where to go.
It was just a bizarre place to of all the time and space, and this is where you choose to go. Why here?
Or even right when the blip happened, everything would be peaceful.
Yeah, it just to me, it was like a poignant moment for her, because we know everything's not as it should be, and everything's going wrong, but she doesn't know this, and she's just like, cool, for me, this is it now. I can actually have a life. So I don't know if you got to see them, but obviously they did some promotional stuff for Loki in the run up to the series. I saw it online because I didn't think we got the same stuff over here, but they did a bunch of McDonald's promotions.
Yeah, we didn't get that here.
Sylvia had the same haircut that we see when she's in this episode at the TVA, like the future haircut, of her working behind a McDonald's counter and Loki just time slipping in and then going, "Oh, what are you doing here?"
Yes.
And they just kind of like stare at each other with that weird sexual brother-sister chemistry that they seem to have.
Interesting.
But yeah, I know they did like special sauces and stuff for it over there. So as always, America get the good stuff, and we're left behind.
They always do. Always do.
Weren't you trying to get a hat, a TVA hat or something for this?
Yeah.
And you couldn't get it because they did it only in America only.
They did, yeah, that's right. I saw on one of the websites that they were having these hats and these box sets for the first season of Loki in Blu-ray or 4K. And if you go to GameSpot, it's on there, but our equivalent here doesn't have it, and GameSpot doesn't ship out internationally. So I have to go on eBay or something because I want to have the hat for us. It'll be the perfect time to review it through the series. But no, like I would love to do the whole Kevin Feige thing, and every time there's a new season, have a different hat on.
Nice,
but it just doesn't. Oh, the new hat never is on store to when it's going to arrive when the show's on.
This is true. You'll be able to get it like 2 months afterwards.
Yeah, even though it's 2023.
So, you should do this thing where you should always wear the hat from the last series that's just finished for a new series that's just that's coming on. So
that's true. That's true. But at the meantime, I'm pretty happy with everything.
Oh yeah, definitely. Nothing wrong with a bit of LCR merch going on there. So
nah.
Any final thoughts for this series opener of Loki?
I think it's an absolute win. I think it's the same thing like with Moon Knight, WandaVision. Episode 1 is very strong, sets the tone for everything to come, and my hope is the fact that it just stays at that level. But it's just a banger of a start. What do you think?
I think it's been a pretty good start. Yeah, I've definitely been looking forward to this series because the more season 1 went on, the more I liked it, and I was really loved, as I said, I've already said. To be fair, the season finale of series 1. So high expectations, high hopes for this. I'm definitely pretty sure when we did our Phase 4 and Phase 5 ranking, I had this at number 2 on my list, if I remember correctly.
Yes, you did.
So yeah, high expectations after season 1. Do you have any predictions for the rest of the season? Anything that you think is like a surefire thing to happen?
Kang will appear besides just the clip that we've seen.
So
with him in the past,
a different variant of Kang, or because we know that Victor Timely is going to apparently play a decent part in this series.
Yes.
So are you predicting other Kang variants to appear?
I think we'll get a different Kang.
Fair.
Different Kang, or yes, and we get a small thread for Deadpool 3. Small thread.
Do you think maybe that would be like a post-credit scene at the end? So something like once everything's been sorted out and the future of the TVA is decided in this series, then that's what we get as a post-credit scene of like Mobius somehow funneling himself, or as the timelines start to. Maybe this is part of why, because obviously anyone that knows the comics in terms of what happens in terms of Kang Dynasty and then going into Secret Wars as the next 2 Avengers films, the events of Secret Wars being that every version of the multiverse collapsing in on itself. Maybe this is what the temporal loom ends up malfunctioning doing, is it's just taking all the different branch timelines and all, which is technically all the different multiverse timelines, and crushing them into one.
Yeah, just files it.
What do you reckon to the theory then that the Kang the Conqueror we got in Ant-Man Quantumania, because no one I think is really expecting that he died at the end of that film because he was sucked into his time machine thing. That this was someone that was kicked out in the timeline somewhere and has then become Victor Timely.
I don't know. I never liked that theory because at the end of Ant-Man, we get that council of Kangs, and they all confirm he's dead. And I know that's like, oh, maybe they don't fully know, but I'm like, they invite every other Kang at that same time, so they know where all the Kangs are.
This
That's
is an
why I'm a
interesting
bit
one.
like,
That yeah,
no, I think he's actually dead, and this is a different Kang again to show a different side of the character. And look, I really do hope that Jonathan Majors does continue playing the character, because for an actor to play a character like Kang is like the ultimate flex.
Yeah.
For an actor that you get to play a character with different versions every time. You're not going in almost and playing the same character every time.
This is true. And the only reason I keep putting the theory out there that particular Kang isn't dead is because I'm pretty sure either the director or one of the writers came out and said, this is Kang the Conqueror. This is the one that goes by that name in the multiverse of the MCU. So this is why I was like, he's not going to be dead, because they wouldn't confirm that this is Kang the Conqueror, the one that we know of and go by calling that name, if he's going to be dead. They wouldn't just... Because what a fucking shit end that would be, to be defeated by ants and just get beaten up by Ant-Man a bit at the end.
I could do all this and you just control ants.
Well, this is... I did actually hear... I know I'm diverging, as we always do.
Yeah,
I did hear a nice little theory that the reason that he wasn't able to beat the ants and everything in the same way that he would do... the same way that in that film he'd already gone out and conquered timelines and beaten teams of Avengers, was because that Kang is a master of time and space, whereas in the quantum realm, that's not the same thing. It's a bit like in the TVA, where time doesn't work the same way. Things don't work the same way. So his powers may not work the same way because he's not in control of time and space in the quantum realm.
That's right, because everything works differently. It's almost like a TVA.
So he's able to use his technology and build things up, and he's still able to have better tech and beat most of the people there, but he doesn't have the ultimate control and lethalness that he would have if it was normal time and space.
No, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
But great start to the show.
Bang.
Really excited to see where this goes. And I'm now banking on your little theory there about a post... Well, we kind of mixed it with a little tip into Deadpool 3, but I'm putting that as a post-credit scene at
just
the end.
a little bit.
Just to set it up, I think that would be quite cool. I think that would be a good move as well.
As simple as Morbius has to go, look, I have to go now. There's someone else who's causing much grief as you. Someone in a red suit, but I'll be able to handle it.
There's some merc with a giant mouth that keeps talking shit.
Yeah. That's right. Or it'll be something like the beginning of Loki season 1, where he's coming through, they're doing the sorting room. He walks through that and goes, where am I?
Nice. Yeah, definitely hoping that's going to happen. Sold, done, but dusted.
Yeah, print it.
Now, let's move on to, I was going to say, the main event of the night. I've been chatting loads of people about this over the last, I guess it's almost been a week now, isn't it? Lots of things going on, lots of things to chat about. We are, of course, talking about Ahsoka Episode 8, the series finale. Again, I'm crying because Star Wars is over, and you won't see it back for a few more months, so I'm going to be having to cover other things, but I love talking about Star Wars non-stop. But Episode 8, The Jedi, The Witch, and the Warlord, which, whichever way you look at it, whether you love it or hate it, a great little riff on the line, The Witch and the Wardrobe.
Yes.
Some people love it, some people have hated it, but I thought when that title popped up, it was like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's like, and just points to it. I was like, yeah.
I know.
That's exactly what I did when it popped up.
Yeah. Like, Dave Filoni, we know what you did. We know what you did, buddy.
So, what were your... 7 pretty great episodes. I think I stated episodes 1 to 3 were good. Episodes 4 to 7 have been phenomenal. what were your expectations going into the finale? What did you want to see going into the finale before we actually get into it?
I wanted to see more Thrawn. I wanted to see more him. I wanted to see Ezra use a lightsaber. And fortunately, this one was kind of left in limbo, but I wanted to know what the hell was calling out to Balin.
I think we all wanted to know that.
That was a kind of left point. But how about yourself? What was the main things that you wanted to see?
I think we were all banking on the fact that, without a doubt, Thrawn was going to make it back. It was just a case of who made it back with him. That all of them make. I kind of was expecting all of them to make it back with him. To be fair,
nah, that'd be too simple, bro.
Well, maybe I was going too simple for a change in terms of my expectations. I was expecting, even though everyone was talking about, I think some of them are going to get left behind. Potentially someone might die. I didn't really see that happening.
They did die.
I did expect. Sorry,
they did die.
Well, yes, someone died in this episode. That's for sure. But I was just more. I was expecting Thrawn to make it back with all of them. To be fair, sneaking onto the Chimera at the last second, the very cliche trope, and them all making it back and then being able to start off another season. What we got was a bit different. I temper my expectations of this finale simply because it was both great and I think not great at the same time.
Now we were talking about this.
You've heard me have a bit of a rant of a few points. Which we will get to as we go along this episode. But there were good points as well. It's not like this. It's hard because I'm such a big fan of these things. There's so many Easter eggs and a lot of fan service in here, as well as rounding off the story as a whole, but at the same time not rounding off stories in this episode. It
was very much like, as cliche as it does sound, between this and Infinity War, almost same.
Well, it is interesting because realistically, when did Thrawn come in? Episode 6, wasn't it? So he's been in 6, 7, and 8. So he's only technically been in 3 episodes. And to be fair, he hasn't really done a lot as a villain. Now, this series has been stacked with villains as it is. Because we've had Thrawn, Morgan Elsbeth, Balin, Shin, the Great Mothers, Enoch and the Night Troopers, the Raiders on this planet. This has been a stacked series. Marok we had early on that we seem to have forgotten about now. The Inquisitor. Yeah, exactly. So this series has been stacked with villains. And to be fair, the last 3 episodes, Thrawn really hasn't done too much. He's not really shown why he's deemed to be so lethal and so feared, I feel anyway. He's been calculating. We've seen the calculating Thrawn in terms of...
Which I did like.
Yeah, he's wanted to know about everything about Ahsoka and where she's from, who her master was, and all that sort of stuff. And he's been able to work out how Ahsoka would go about things based on the fact of how well he knew General Anakin Skywalker and his tactics.
General Ahsoka's master was General Skywalker. Holy shit!
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I love the memes that produced for a week.
Nope.
Just like Thrawn, just like
nope. It's like
so like that sideways glance, then look forward like, oh crap. But he's shown his calculating side, because every step of the way he's calculated just enough to be able to stop all of the heroes from making it onto the ship and making it back with him, whilst he's completed the transfer of the whatever it is from the catacombs onto the ship, and then being able to leave. So
with the bodies,
yes, that's what we're all assuming. But we start off this episode anyway with the induction of Morgan Elsbeth in being elevated to, I guess,
promotion.
I guess a mother of the Night Sisters, sort of. Maybe not on the same level as the Great Mothers, I don't feel, because she didn't get the full makeup job, but she did get a bit of a permanent tattoo.
No, and did you know one of those Great Mothers is actually from Stargate too?
I do indeed. I mentioned that on my episode last week. Claudia Black playing the main Great Mother.
But you couldn't tell. You really couldn't tell from first glance which one she is.
Stumbled across it on TikTok, I think, the week after she was on. And they were like, "Oh, it's good to see Claudia Black back in Star Wars." I was like, "Where? I didn't recognize her." And like, oh, he's got that makeup and shit on. Okay, that's her.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I really missed that.
Yeah, so Morgan gets elevated. She gets her face tattoo. She gets given obviously the powers of the shadows, as I believe they called it,
And the sword.
the sword of Talzin. A great name drop for those of us who know about and have watched Clone Wars. Excuse me, I had a little something in my throat then.
Yeah, I really got the reference straight away. I know what it was called.
I don't want to tell you off for getting names wrong, like your viewers, but I believe you called it the Sword of Tamsin on your show.
Oh yeah, that sounds about right.
Sorry, man, I shouldn't really drop you like that. That was a bit mean. But no, the Sword of Talzin. So we only ever saw this in like I think one episode of the Clone Wars, which was in a season 6 episode where she fights Mace Windu with it. And she eventually gets thwarted by Mace and Jar Jar Binks of all people. Yeah, I know. Trust me, it wasn't a wasn't an arc that you really needed to watch. To be fair,
yeah.
But I learned about this on Why So Silly because I actually got the question wrong and I had to hang my Star Wars head in shame. So I'm going to throw the question to you and see if you can get an educated guess. But as Mother Talzin, the head of the Night Sisters on Dathomir, who ends up being the one that gets to kill her? So she does get killed in the end. It was actually done in a separate comic.
I don't know.
General Grievous.
Oh.
So there was a comic that was made. It was originally going to be an arc in Clone Wars, but after it originally got cancelled, they never obviously got to make it, and so they did a little comic on it. But there was like a battle between Darth Maul, Dooku, Grievous, and Talzin, and Grievous ends up being the one that gets to kill Talzin in the end. So.
Because I think in the game, Merrin mentions a man that came to Dathomir with multiple lightsabers. That's
I thought she was talking about the dude that was on the planet already. Was it Talos? I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
But the
dude it could just been him. He was a douche.
But it could have been more, to be fair.
Yeah.
I don't know if she was actually mentioning the guy that came to destroy the Night Sisters with multiple lightsabers. If it is, then that was Grievous that they're talking about. Because that also was a Clone Wars arc where Dooku's like, I've had enough, go and kill Asajj Ventress and the Night Sisters, and he just brings a bunch of droids to the planet. And that's when we first got to see reanimated zombies for the Night Sisters. They reanimate a bunch of them on there, and they're sort of winning a battle for a while until until Grievous hunts down and kills this like 200-year-old woman who's controlling the army of the undead,
which we did get.
Yeah, but anyway, back to this episode. I digress as always.
Yeah.
So we get that at the start. Morgan Elsbeth being elevated. What have you thought of her as a character throughout the show? Because obviously we've got that Mando season 2 episode with her and Ahsoka, and so they obviously reunite for this series. I've thought she served her purpose in obviously getting the map, being able to get the Eye of Sion over to the New Galaxy and getting Thrawn and being able to secure them to go back. But other than that, I've not really seen her have too much of an impact because every time she's suggested something to Thrawn, he's kind of shot her down and said, "You're thinking too narrowly."
Yeah, or she looks shocked, like, huh?
Yeah, she looks a bit dumbfounded a lot of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. No, look, I think she's done a good job. I'm glad she got her moment at the end of the series. And like as I said, I can't say when I watched Mandalorian that she was a character that's like, ooh, I can't wait for her to come back. I can't wait to see what she's going to do. She's probably the last character I thought was going to make a reappearance in this show from Mandalorian.
Yeah, I didn't really realise that she was going to be in this series either, to be fair.
No, I was like, oh, cool.
She served her purpose okay.
She did. We got an excellent action scene between her and Ahsoka.
Indeed, which we will certainly get to. And then the next bit that we get after this is, to be fair, probably one of my favourite scenes in this finale. So we get Ezra, who is frantically going around all of Hugh Yang's bits, trying to build himself a new lightsaber.
Wait, he's going through what, sorry?
through all of Hugh Yang's bits. He's molesting this poor droid's inventory.
Poor droid. Ransacking the poor man.
He's ransacking all of his drawers, trying to find all the parts he needs. And again, I thought there was a cute little Rebels reference in here when he's looking for an emitter. And like Hugh Yang's like, use this one. He's like, no, it brings the blade out too short or thin or something. And this was, I feel, a Dave Filoni dig back to Rebels when people criticised how the lightsabers looked because they looked very, very thin with pointed ends in the Rebels animation. So I felt like that was maybe quite a nice point to them. And then we get the little chat that they have about Kanan Jarrus, which was nice because he hasn't really been mentioned at all in the series, even though we've seen obviously Hera and his son. And Hugh Yang's like, how the hell can you know Kanan? He's like, well, I've been teaching younglings for generations. I taught him how to make a lightsaber. Yeah. He's obviously taught you, so
Yeah, I taught Darth Vader.
Yeah, he's like, I taught every motherfucker in this galaxy how to make lightsabers.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was a great moment then when he pulls out the other emitter that Kanan.
The one other emitter.
Yeah, the only one that somehow, through the burning of the temple and everything that's gone on, he's still managed to keep hold of for the last 30-odd years. But that was a cool moment then. Then he gets to obviously have his lightsaber and ignites it, and cool, he's got a lightsaber back again. Where he gets, I think it's been a contentious debate, where he gets his kyber crystal from, who the fuck knows? I'm pretty sure I heard Michael on your show mention that it's like Casey and Loki, where he's just got a drawer of them rattling around like Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
I've got a few spare ones here.
Yeah. Oh, you've been looking for these? Oh, I've got heaps. There's a whole planet full of them.
Although I did notice a couple of episodes ago when, or maybe in the episode before, when Ahsoka's training at the start of the episode with the hologram of Anakin. When she goes to put the hologram recording back in the box that she's got, in that sort of in that little sort of like shelf where everything is, there are a bunch of different lightsaber hilts on the wall above the hologram box recordings. So maybe these all had holograms, holocron crystals in. Sorry, and
just weren't being used.
Yeah, they were just keeping them because when people used to die, or the Jedi used to die, they used to keep their lightsabers on the wall and stuff in the Jedi temples, and in various different Jedi temples throughout the galaxy. So maybe there were just a bunch of them there for the taking, and they do have a surplus now since Ilum's been completely mined and scrapped by the Empire. But what was really poignant, I think, about this is that it sets Sabine thinking about her relationship with Ahsoka. Because I think Hugh Yang says a great line where he says, the relationship between master and apprentice is as challenging as it is rewarding.
True that, which the series has portrayed very well.
This is true. Sabine and Ahsoka have come a long way in this series from us being filled in with what happened with them, which we do get a little bit of that as well after she disappears from the room and Ezra asks Hugh Yang what happened between them. And, after the bombing of Mandalore, the Night of 1,000 Tears, which I have to say, I thought that happened maybe not long after the events of when Rebels ended, so around maybe episode 4 or something like that. I found out is actually part of Operation Cinder, which happened after episode 6. Operation Cinder was a plan that the Emperor had put in place to be put into action should he ever be killed, where basically the Empire go and bomb the shit out of a ton of planets in retaliation, essentially. And so the Night of 1,000 Tears was actually part of Operation Cinder, and part of the plan to enact after he'd been killed at the end of episode 6.
Oh.
So
because Ahsoka's very young in that battle that we saw in that flashback.
But that flashback we see of that's Ahsoka in the Clone Wars.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, sorry, yeah. When they actually,
So the fact that that was probably not too long ago in terms of, I think it's probably about 5 to 8, maybe at most 10 years ago from where they were at that moment in time. I think it's around about 5 to 8 years after the events of episode 6 is where this is taking place. So, but anyway, we aren't digressing again in terms of that. But it was just a fun little fact I learned that it was part of the Night of 1,000 Tears, the bombing of Mandalore was part of Operation Cinder. If you didn't know, so. But basically, Ahsoka walks away from Sabine because she's like, if she unlocks her potential as a Jedi, then there's she's too distraught with the loss of her family and won't be able to control herself.
Yes, and fear every master has.
And something that has actually been quite prominent for Ahsoka for a very long time, I feel. Because, of what happened in Rebels when she learns that Vader is Anakin and she's learned, what his fate became. Since then, we've seen her several times step away from this whole sort of wanting to teach people through fear of what may happen to them. So she didn't want to take on Grogu in Mandalorian because of what happened.
Just in case.
And she's like, his attachment to you is too strong. I can't take him away from that because I've seen what happens to people when they can't control things. And she walked away from Sabine because she was, as we found out, worried about what would happen to her and that she couldn't control herself should she unlock her potential. And so, yeah, but then we get to the bit where
history will repeat itself. It's like poetry, rhymes.
Exactly, as Balin always says. History always has a habit of repeating itself.
Yeah.
So Sabine wanders off to go and talk to Ahsoka, and Ahsoka essentially absolves her of blame for giving the map to the bad guys and going with them to find Ezra. This is the more slightly mature Ahsoka that we've now got
Ahsoka
after coming
White.
out. Exactly. She's more balanced in herself and in her reactions to things, and so she's because originally she was like, worst comes to worst, you've got to fucking destroy that thing, no matter if it means we'll never see Ezra again. And now she's on the flip side of it. She's like, if you hadn't have done what you done, we wouldn't be here with Ezra.
Look, you did it. I can't complain. Here we are now, but we have Ezra. So it's like, well, we're here.
The one thing about this scene, though, because obviously Thrawn sends out a couple of TIE fighters to go and slow them down again and distract them a bit. And Ezra actually mentioned, he's like, I've got to hurry up and build this lightsaber because Ahsoka says we've got to go and stop Thrawn and it potentially could be coming for us anyway. So I'm like, why are you then hovering your ship at incredibly slow speed over the Noti people? Why aren't you flying towards the fucking Chimera to get so you're closer to them? That's
what I said. That's what the first thing I wish. I'm like, you're not really in a rush. Like, he's about to leave. He's about to leave.
Yeah.
Why are you just hovering over the turtle people?
And then, to make it even worse, because the ship gets shot down, they have to do it on howlers. They have to ride there on the freaking howlers. And, Ezra and Sabine snuggling up on one howler together.
Yeah, and Hugh Young's just like, go without me.
Yeah, and he's like, I'll be fine. And
leave me with the turtle people.
Yeah. Although, this is a debate to be had. What kind of species are these? Because I've heard turtle people, I've heard crab people because they've got the crab claws. And I'm like, these are people with shells and antennas for eyes. These are snail people, surely.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So that's why they're going at a slow pace, because they're going with snails.
Exactly. And their pods that they're driving in. Snail shells.
Don't go very fast at all.
I know it completely makes no difference whatsoever, but I was like, everyone's calling them turtles or crabs, and I'm like, they look like snails to me.
Probably snail people is probably better because they're going at snail pace.
Snail crab hybrids with their claws and everything. So
yeah.
So we get them the fact that they're then making their way back towards the temple to try and obviously get to Thrawn, and I thought there was potentially a nice little endgame tie-in here when Thrawn tells them to rain down hellfire.
Yes,
just like Thanos does in Endgame.
Do it. Let's stir the troops. There's no troops, so just do it.
Rain hellfire.
Yeah.
And they managed to dodge it pretty well. Which is either useless shooting or Jedi Force powers being able to guide them through the bolts. And then there was a good moment here, I think, when we didn't really see maybe what was coming, but they said, right, we're going to they're making good progress, but we're going to give them a ground assault. I thought originally that meant they were going to take everyone and go to where they were with the ship and the Noti snail people, as I'm going to call them now, and attack them there. But they're like, nope, they had a group of troopers that had volunteered actually and had been told something. So they're like, have they been notified of what's going to happen? They're like, yes, they're all doing it for you.
Yes. And you're going to go fight these 3 Jedi. You will all most likely die. But that is a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I always love that. It's like, this is our hard times. We're definitely going to go through something rough, but it's something I'm willing to do to kill you all. So they make it, I have to laugh because at this moment in time, obviously Sabine still hadn't used the Force properly or successfully yet. And they're like,
Yeah,
and
she
she's
couldn't
like,
grab the cup.
and Ahsoka's like, Ezra, the door, and he's trying to use the Force to open it, and then and she's like, Sabine, help out, and she just thrusts her arm out, and I'm like, she's done fuck all so far with the Force.
Yeah.
Like, what is she going to be doing?
Why ask? Or the fact she's like, nah, use your blasters.
Well, that was actually quite good in that scene because they get in there, they're confronted by all the troopers. And there was that great moment, to be fair, when they all lined up, with the lightsabers. So green lightsaber, white lightsaber, blue lightsaber. And the first time we've really seen a lot of Jedi together in the same frame for quite some time, I think.
Well, that's what I said. I was like, oh, feels like it's been so long we've actually seen 3 Jedi on screen.
In fact, when was the last time we saw 3 Jedi on screen together? Probably in Rebels when we saw Kanan, Ezra, and Ahsoka together. I don't recall seeing anything since then, to be fair. So
nope, either 1 or 2.
It is, yeah, no, absolutely. But it was cool that 3 of them stood there together, and they're then going at the Night Troopers. And I think this was also good from Ahsoka's point of view as a master, because she saw that Sabine was maybe struggling with a lightsaber at this point. And so she said, switched over to blasters because she's got the Beskar to protect herself. And she can switch over to blasters, dodging behind Ahsoka and Ezra, and they take out all the troopers. And then we get this fantastic moment when the Thrawn's like, I need some dark magic right now. It's Great Mothers, help me out.
I must call upon you again. Great Mothers, I need your assistance once more.
And then they do their little bit of chanting, and then we see the resurrected, dead zombie stormtroopers or night troopers. Which was great because when they're resurrected, you see like even the eyes through the helmet glowing green.
The green eyes, which is creepy. And even when they were all mortified, going, "Oh my god!" Which I love this horror element. I love this horror element.
Yeah, this is great because they've leaned into that a couple of times a bit more recently. Like there was the episode of Bad Batch where we had the Zillo creature that had been cloned, and at the start of the episode when he'd like killed all the troopers on the ship. And there was like a horror element, almost like alien film type element, where like one trooper's going through the corridors, like what the fuck's going on, and this thing comes out of nowhere to attack it. So I like that they've lent a bit more into that side of things recently.
Yeah.
But we get them up, and they all start obviously trying to attack them again, and they're trying to obviously make it up the tower. There is something that should be maybe a little bit criticised in this, and that's the fact that once they've been reanimated, no matter how many times they get shot or slashed apart with lightsabers, nothing seems to happen to their armor here. I think this is maybe an oversight by them and by Dave Filoni and the other producers and whatever. The fact that no matter how many times they're shot, they don't seem to have any blaster marks. There's no lightsaber sort of cuts or anything like that. They just all seem to still have perfect armor.
Fine.
I think it would have been much cooler to see them then getting up time and time again, going for them. Especially when they get to the top of the tower and they're out in the open, to just see all these zombie troopers with various slash marks and blaster marks in their armor.
Nah, the closest thing we got was the Dark Trooper when they had the mask.
Oh, the Death
broken
Trooper.
Off.
Yeah,
sorry, Death Trooper.
Yeah, thing is, they must have been dead for a while though, because they had like a decayed face.
Yeah,
and were proper like.
Yeah.
So those ones must have been dead for a while or reanimated for a while.
Mighty decayed. Like, you've been here for a while.
But great to see them like that, to be fair, though.
Yeah.
And so they go up there, and obviously Ahsoka's, they come across Morgan Elsbeth. Oh, because that was it, wasn't it? Thrawn turns around, and he's just like, they're making it up here a bit too quickly. We need to distract them more. So he turns around to Morgan, and he's just like, I'm afraid, you need to basically go out there and be fucking left behind.
Yeah, I need your assistance one more time. Go out there and sacrifice yourself. See ya.
And I thought what was good here is that maybe Morgan's allegiance had sort of changed in this moment, because after she'd been promoted by the Great Mothers, She's got the echoey voice, she's got the powers and whatever now, and she's got the sword. And Thrawn says to her, "For the Empire," and he turns around and walks away, and she just stays there for a moment, and she's like, "For Dathomir."
For Dathomir.
And for Gondor. And so it seems that her allegiances are maybe changed because she's like, "I'd rather make this sacrifice for Dathomir than for the Empire."
Yeah, not the other way around.
So she goes off, and she's confronted by our trio making their way up the tower. And Ahsoka tells the others to go on, make it to the ship, and she'll stand here and deal with it. And I really liked this battle between Morgan and Ahsoka. I thought it was really well done.
I liked how it wasn't a lightsaber. I liked how it was that different.
Yeah.
And Morgan was winning. She was really winning.
Which I think shocked a lot of people, because at the end of the day, no matter how proficient you are with a blade, most people can't stand toe-to-toe with a Force user in battle. Because at some point, they're going to be quicker than you, they're going to be better than you, they're going to have the Force abilities over you. So even if you've got dark magic, I still feel like I still don't know how in Mando Season 2, when they first faced off when we meet them in that episode, how she managed to battle with Ahsoka for so long. And even then, it was like a replay, because in that episode, she knocks a lightsaber out of her hand, and she does the same thing in this episode where she actually destroys one of her lightsabers.
Yeah.
So it was almost like a replay of their battle again as well. Until then, we get the moment where Ezra and Sabine have made it to the top of the tower, and they battle the two Death Troopers.
Force push. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So no, back. Yes.
Yeah.
Death Troopers, which I did like. We get the revelation that she can use the Force.
Oh yeah. Okay. So we get the moment where she's being choked up against the wall, and she then predictably is reaching out, because they made a big deal of making sure that we saw the lightsaber was knocked out of her hand, that it's lying on the floor over there. And she then puts her hand out to it. They pan over to it, and it starts to wiggle, kind of like when Luke was in the Wampa cage, and he's reaching out, and it sort of wiggles in the snow, and then boom, comes to her hand. The cool thing about this is that when she lights it into the Death Trooper's helmet, the inside of the helmet glows green from the impact. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, okay. So Sabine she's unlocked her Force potential now, and she can now use the Force. So they want to make it over to the ship. And as she's like, you jump over, I'll Force push you, which is exactly what Kanan and Ezra used to do in Rebels. So it was a nice callback to that.
Yeah.
But
he makes it. She doesn't.
Yeah. So she decides, that she's going to stay behind, because she sees Ahsoka surrounded by the Night Troopers and Morgan. And she decides the very cliche thing where Morgan's like, "You're going to die alone and away from all your friends," and then Sabine pops up and goes, "She's not alone. I'm here." Yeah, and so very, very cliche. That happens a lot. That's things like, "You're not going to die alone," but she's not alone.
Yeah,
but all of a sudden, Sabine has become very proficient in the Force as soon as she's unlocked it. She managed to pull it to her. She was able to Force push Ezra a good 50 feet or so. Yeah. And she does this move as well when she's in the battle with Ahsoka, where she twirls her lightsaber behind her back and deflects a shot back into one of the troopers without even looking. So how do you feel about unlocking this thing that they've obviously teased throughout this whole series about Sabine being potentially Force sensitive, and now they've made it a reality? Before I've got to say what I've got to say, you say what you need to say.
I liked it. I thought it was good. I did like how you get to see how she felt like in her own space. She was nailing it. I did like it. Did it seem like she was really good at that point? But then again, I thought, because obviously all her skills as the Mandalorian, she would just take that weaponry and amplify it more with a lightsaber now. So I wasn't too like, oh, of course you're perfect now, aren't you? But I can see why you would be annoyed, because it's just like, bang, you use the Force, and now you're fully powered. Now you're a good to go Jedi.
We'll use the Force. That's not how the
Force works. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So I've never been a big fan of this whole making Sabine Force sensitive thing, or the way that they seem to have potentially changed the lore on what it means to be Force sensitive. I've had many debates with many people over this series about this. I've ranted, I've raved,
Reviewed?
I've reviewed the situation. I've tried to take on board what others have said about it and stuff like that. And to me, it comes down to the fact that people do generally sit in one of the two camps. And the arguments put forward to me, I've actually tried to combine them to show that it shouldn't happen maybe the way that they've done it in this series. Because people who are on the pro side say it's always been said by Yoda, by Kenobi in the original trilogies that, the Force is in everyone, it binds us together, it brings everything together as one. And so everyone has the Force in them. And Ahsoka said at the start of this series that sometimes you just need to have the discipline and training to be able to unlock it within you and to use that ability. But at the same point, we have always been taught that everyone has different levels of Force ability within them. Those who have high levels, I don't even like using the word, but I'm going to use it. Midichlorians. We're taught about midichlorians, that everyone has a different midichlorian count.
Midichlorians? This kid has an awfully high count.
Yeah. So the fact that, we're taught that everyone, if you have a high midichlorian count, you're going to be more like, there's potential to be Jedi or even obviously Sith. If you have, you can still have the Force within you or a midichlorian count within you, but it's likely to be low for a lot of, or 95% of creatures in the galaxy.
Because then why doesn't everyone become a Jedi?
Exactly. If all anyone has to do is train and study and be disciplined to unlock their potential, then, there'd be fucking millions of them running around.
Yeah.
And that just isn't the case. So I'm trying to base my thoughts on this off what I know from what's physically been told to us in TV series and films. And it points more to me that this shouldn't have happened than it should have happened. Yeah. I felt this was Dave Filoni getting too wrapped up in his own characters, since he's the one that created these characters and he's the one that's been able to carry this story on. And to me, it just didn't quite feel right. I'd have to admit, I was a little bit angry when it happened in the episode.
Oh, come on!
Yeah, come on, man, this is wrong.
Yeah.
And I know some people aren't obviously listening to this aren't going to agree with me, and that's fine. I never have a go at anyone or look down or talk down to them because they have a different opinion on it. It's just for me personally, based on what I know from the films, the TV series, and the lore.
This shouldn't have been that easy.
This loses meaning for what it is to be a Jedi, or for what it is to have Force abilities.
Just unlock it; you'll have full power.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm going to go and be a Jedi tomorrow now, or I'm actually going to be Sith because anyone can see Sith Empire tattoo right here. So I'm definitely not on the side of the Sith. Sorry, side of the Jedi. Sorry.
Fair.
Only because I've always said, like they say that the dark side corrupts you and you fall to it. I would be corrupted so fucking easily; it would be unreal. I would
get paid more. Done.
I'd be gone in minutes.
Done.
That wouldn't even be a contest. I'd stick to the light side for about 1 second, and then I'm like, sorry, they told me they got cookies. I'm off. See you later.
Oh, I want a red one.
So this part of the episode I wasn't particularly thrilled about. What was cool, we'll move on from that, and I'll save myself ranting any further. But we do move from that to the closing battle between Ahsoka and Morgan, which again I thought was fairly well choreographed between the two of them. We see one of Ahsoka's lightsabers get destroyed, so she's back down to one. And then she gives the killer blow where she's able to 12 round. She even takes Morgan's blade off her and then uses her lightsaber and the blade to
slice her.
Exactly, slice straight across her abdomen, because you see one glowing mark of cauterized lightsaber and one green slash just above it. So, were you bothered that Morgan was killed off in this show? I did predict it, to be fair, but I actually predicted that Thrawn would kill her.
No, it's true. No, it's her dying. I felt like it was gonna happen. I could see that happening. I didn't think. I would have been more surprised if she made out of alive.
I think after she got promoted at the start of the episode, I was then expecting her to survive. Maybe if you'd asked me last week, I'd have been like, yeah, I don't think she's making it out. I'd have stuck my prediction that she messes up somehow and Thrawn doesn't tolerate it, even though she kind of saved him. And he then, has a shot or something.
Kills her.
But yeah, once she gained the powers at the start of the episode, I thought, oh no, she's going to come back to this universe and she's going to be helping set up things on Dathomir. So nope, absolutely not. She's gone.
Yeah.
So then, obviously, they get the bits where Thrawn orders them to destroy the temple because the Great Mother sense that Morgan's been killed. Tell Thrawn as such.
She's dead.
And he
more rain,
orders,
hellfire.
Yep, more hellfire. Which to me, I think pissed the sisters, the Great Mothers, obviously off a little bit because they ordered it, and Claudia Black gave him a look as if to be like, "Are you really going to destroy our home?
Yeah.
Like, even if we're leaving it, that's one of our temples."
Yeah, she didn't look too happy about that.
Too impressed, yeah. But they do the classic thing of, oh my god, there's no way off there while we're being blasted with firepower. And they jump onto the hull of the ship.
Yeah.
And they get onto there, and they're obviously chasing down the ship. And I loved Thrawn decides to make a phone call to Ahsoka.
Yes.
Tells her that she's battled well. I love the fact that Thrawn loves to go up against people that he wants to be challenged by, because he's like, I would have loved to have met you in person. And I think he was relishing the fact that he, on another day and another time, he would have liked to have gone up against her properly, as the apprentice of Anakin.
And it's one of those things where the villain, it's one of those rare tropes where the villain and the hero never meet.
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought that was a great conversation, and I genuinely thought on the run up to that Ahsoka and the gang were just going to sneak on to the Chimera just before it jumps into light speed, into hyperspace.
I did like that.
Yeah,
I did like how they didn't get away.
So that's it. Thrawn's gone. They make it back to the galaxy, and Ahsoka and Sabine and Huyang go back to join the snail people and set up a bit of camp with them. And then we get to, I guess, for me, the two letdowns of this episode. Shin and Baylan. Both letdowns, but both cool at the same time, because Shin, I don't know why she didn't go back, because she had a massive head start after their battle ended. I don't know why she didn't go back to the Chimera.
No, it's fully pushed aside. Aside, and almost a complete afterthought of the entire episode. Like, it's almost like when you saw her, you're like, oh yeah, Shin. That's right.
So she looks like she's going to be in charge of the Raiders now. So that's an open-ended story for her. And then we get Baylan, who we get this. It's a shame we only got 20 seconds of him. I said that was criminal. We only got 20 seconds of him in the finale episode. But the big reveal that he's basically stood in front of the statues of the Mortis gods from the Clone Wars, stood in the hand of the father, with the son next to him, and it looks like the daughter's one on the other side, because we did see Morai, the owl, from the Clone Wars as well, that follows Ahsoka around, who is effectively the embodiment of the daughter of the light side of the Force.
I did wonder what was with the owl. I was like,
yeah,
cool, it's just a bird. Why are you looking at it so weirdly? And then I looked it up and I was like, oh.
Yeah, the embodiment of the daughter, and since, the daughter's last dying act was to pass her life force into Ahsoka so she could live, it's then sort of given that maybe Ahsoka is the daughter. But, Baylan's looking off into the distance. We see that sort of like...
blinking?
Yeah, it was a glimmering light. I'm sure it was the Eye of Sauron he was looking at in the future. In the distance. But yeah, so to me, that's obviously indicating that that's the great power that he's thinking about, and that he's going to go off. What they do with Baylan, I don't know in terms of because rumour has it they cut some scenes from this. I don't know whether that was in response to what happened with Ray Stevenson, and they're saving those scenes for potentially, obviously, the next series. So they wrap up his story maybe within an episode or two. I wouldn't be mad if they recast him. I think it's not like he's become a legacy character like Luke or Leia that you can't really recast.
No. But he's done a great performance for his for a very short time for a character.
He has had a very big impact in a short period of time for a new character. So, in a way, I do hope they do recast him. It might not be the same performance that we get, but I still think there's something that could be done, because it's still an early stage character. Yeah,
if he's got a big enough plot point, I would like to see it recast and not have the plot point, or Shin take over his plot point.
Yeah, I think that would be, fair as well. Like I said, if they saved some episodes that were cut from this, or some scenes that were cut from this for the next series, where he finds the great power, he's killed by the great power. Shin finds his body on the planet and takes up his mantle, or takes up his role, so to speak. I wouldn't
whatever
be mad
he
at
was
that
going
either.
to do. Yeah.
So, we'll obviously just have to wait and see what happens there. But
which we don't know when. So far, all we know is the Skeleton Crew is the sequel.
So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what does happen there. I'm banking on a season 2. I don't see this going straight into the Mandoverse Dave Filoni film. I believe that we'll get another Ahsoka series before then.
We need another one,
definitely. I think there's enough there that they could do a series easily. So
yeah.
And then we get the last couple of scenes where the Chimera's returned to our normal Star Wars galaxy, and there was a great shot where we get Dathomir, and then we get like the Eye of Sion with the Chimera sort of going over the top of it. I thought that was some great cinematography. And then we get this scene at the end with Ezra. Sorry, he'd stolen Baylan and Shin's ship. I don't know if you noticed that it was the same ship that they used, and it also mirrored the opening scene of when we see Baylan and Shin when they arrive at that New Republic cruiser. It mirrored the scene where Ezra arrives on it. And I don't know why he's still in his Stormtrooper outfit, because if you had one trigger-happy guard stood behind Hera, who saw a Stormtrooper walk out of there and shot him, that would be it.
Take your helmet off.
Why he didn't take his Stormtrooper gear off before he got there, I don't know. Mysteries. I know it's maybe supposed to be a callback to Rebels when he used to dress up in different Stormtrooper helmets and stuff and outfits, but touching moment when Chopper seems to realise straight away that it's him, goes up to him.
Good old Chopper, like a dog.
Exactly. Takes his helmet off, and to me, the reaction that Hera gave was more of what we should have seen from Sabine when she met Ezra than anything else, because she seemed shocked and in disbelief that he was actually stood there. It's an older, grown-up Ezra. Bit miffed we didn't get like a hug or anything from them. It was just left as them like.
That's what I said. I thought the scene seemed to cut a little bit short.
Yeah,
like a hug or something would have been good, but it just seemed to be like, hey.
Yeah, it was a bit random. Excuse me, sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. Just choking on my own excitement.
Yeah.
And then the final scene that we get in this series is we go back to Ahsoka and Sabine on Peridia. They're making peace with the fact that I thought it was poetic, first of all, that Thrawn and Ezra are the ones that got brought to this galaxy in the first place when Ezra made the sacrifice, and it's poetic that those are the two that got to go back whilst they got stuck behind.
Everyone who went on the mission is stuck.
Yeah, so they're left behind. They seem to, Ahsoka's telling Sabine that they can make peace with this decision and they can move on. And it seems that, Sabine's focusing on something that she can kind of see, but not quite.
Shimmering in the light.
And then we see Ahsoka looking over, staring for a minute, and she turns and walks away, and it pans backwards to see Force Ghost Anakin. They're smiling in ratification that, of the job that his Padawan has done. So I don't know how many times we've said in this series that, we got to see Anakin one last time, and then he popped up a couple more times to see him one last time.
Yes, and I did like this. I didn't think it was an overused scene. I think it was a good scene, like a piece, like he's always watching over her. So I haven't felt at all that they've over milked Anakin for this show. So every time he has appeared, it's come at pivotal points,
and it's had
like even his hologram.
Yeah, even the hologram, whilst it was a callback in its own right, it was still to show that Ahsoka's heeding his words and training after seeing him in the World Between Worlds. So, I didn't ever expect this series to end with basically the last scene to be a Force Ghost Anakin smiling over Ahsoka.
I know,
but I'm absolutely fucking thrilled that we did.
Yep, and looks so good. I did see the other day. I can't remember if I sent it to you. I was like, this is one of the last recordings that Anakin ever did. And he was actually, no, this is actually the last recording.
I saw that. Yeah, that was quite good. He's like, no, we made 3 more. Here they are.
Here they are.
But so that brings our Ahsoka series to an end. Any final thoughts on this series as a whole?
Loved it. I think it's going to be one of the most talked about, as I said, talked about Star Wars shows for a very long time in the whole lore of Star Wars. We got some killer moments, and obviously for Clones fans and Rebels friends, it's an absolute love letter, and even still a good partial love letter to the prequel and the original trilogy.
Absolutely. It's had a lot of fan service. It's been something that I think non-Clone Wars and Rebels fans have been able to follow still with realizing the history of that there is more history there that they can go and dive into and then get more deep emotional connection with the series should they want to.
Well, that's right, and that's one of the things I said to you in our episode was even for like myself who hasn't fully watched Clone Wars and Rebels, I didn't feel isolated out of the show. Like if you've just watched the prequels and sequels, you will be fine with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And people keep comparing it to obviously what's is it the best Star Wars TV show of all time? People obviously put it up there with Andor. The thing for me that sets it apart right now is that Andor was a great show. There's no doubting that, but Andor wasn't quite the mystical action adventure that Star Wars technically has always been. This show was that.
This was Star Wars.
They are both
worlds.
Star Wars, but
yeah. But I mean, like if you just take those original movies, like this is Star Wars, Weird Worlds, Jedi, Master and Apprentice, lightsaber action, a villain, a weird villain with power, has massive empire power. But Andor, which I said as well in my last episode, Andor was really good in a different sense.
Yeah, Andor was a really good thing, and it was a different end of the Star Wars spectrum to what Ahsoka is. Ahsoka, as we said, is the fantastical, the mystical, the Star Wars side of Star Wars. So I can't wait to see what they do moving forward. I really do hope they run forward with the season 2. I know we're going to get probably a bit more of Thrawn in Mando season 4 with the Shadow Council and all that. So
hell yeah,
really looking forward to what we get forwarding. But Leigh, thank you so much for jumping on to do a double review with me this week for the end of a great show and the start of another one. So everything rolls off from one into the other. I'm so grateful as always that you've jumped on.
Yeah, I was going to say even Loki leads into the Marvels.
Yeah, so we're good for a bit, and then in November I'm not going to know what to do with myself for a while. I need to come up with some plans.
Invincible.
Invincible. I'm going to be doing a review of Gen V once the series ends.
Hey, if you need a guest.
I did think about you actually. To be fair, I'm not going to lie. I am good, but I thought I'm going to wait till the series ends before I do my review of that. I do actually have a Clone Wars special review coming in late November as well. So we'll be keeping. Maybe you should be tuning in for that for a bit of a guide to the show.
I tune in every weekend, man.
Oh, you do. You are fantastic. Leigh, tell everyone at home for those that aren't familiar with you just yet exactly where they can find you.
As always, you can find Lights Camera Rant on wherever you get your local podcasts, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. We're on all the major platforms. Just Lights Camera Rant. But you have to go and subscribe via this podcast first before you come to mine.
That's the stipulation. So
Yes.
Follow here and then go follow Leigh.
Yes.
Join his YouTube phenomenon. Get those numbers rolling in as he has been. Not that he needs any help. He's been doing a fantastic job over there.
Thank you, man, and thank you for having me on.
Always a pleasure, mate. You know that. I love chatting with you. We chat quite regularly as it is, so off screen, so to speak. So, and as I always say, make sure you go and follow Leigh. He's got one of the best openings to a show that I've heard. Make sure you got your earbuds in when listening to it as well, because it sounds amazing.
Thank you.
I'll be back next week, episode 2 of Loki to review. I've got another fantastic guest lined up. But until then, everyone take care of yourself. And as always,
the Force will be with you always.
See everybody.